I'm Barry Fair. I work for Greenleaf Acres out in Hudson, Colorado. We are a grain farm. We farm about 1,800 acres out here. Some of that's pasture and dry land, and the rest is irrigated cropland. So we grow corn and wheat and alfalfa are our primary cash crops, and plant cover crops in between those crops. Been doing organic farming since 1999. It was our first year certified. Farmed with my dad and brothers in West Bend, Iowa, and in 2011 had the opportunity to purchase some ground in Colorado and moved out here. I've enjoyed the opportunity. So it's definitely a different style of farming. We're doing a lot of irrigation out here. We had a couple pivots back in Iowa, but they were barely used, and our pivots out here, we wouldn't be able to grow anything successfully without them. So our local NRCS office has been very instrumental in helping us with keeping our pivots updated, state-of-the-art nozzles, and also going to a lot of variable drive pumps to help keep our energy costs down and run more efficient use of our water out here. So water is a key concern always in this area. We're with a group of farmers in a South Platte River Basin, and so we augment all our water and get a pumping quota every year, and so that definitely always looking for ways to conserve moisture and water. We very seldom take our straw or corn stalks off our ground. We like to get the organic matter right back into the soil, and that's where a big role of our cover crops play as well. When we bought the land, it was farmed by someone in the dairy business that needed the forages for feed, and so we're just short on organic matter. And over the last 8-9 years here, we've been able to bring our percentages up significantly, and our soil to retain water. So we also use weather stations that NRCS has helped us install. Everything is remote access by phone, so even if we're not around or in different fields, we keep a good idea of what soil moistures are and just what temps are coming and what we need to deal with on a daily basis. So our pivots are all operated the same way. A lot of times in the middle of our growing season, we got to run our pivots constantly just to keep up. But early in the year and when the crop slows down, with remote access to your pivot, you can go more to nighttime run hours, which saves a lot on evaporation's a big concern out here in the high desert. So we use primarily chicken litter for fertility out here. Same thing within Iowa. Chicken litter tends to have a lower, weed content, weed seed, survivable weed seed content in it anyway. And so that's what we use primarily for our fertility source and then our crop rotations. And the same thing for our pest management. Crop rotation is certainly the key to that. Most bugs between a grass and a legume crop, a lot of the insects and pests are different that thrive in those environments, and so good, strong crop rotation is key. We do our current crop rotation is still somewhat being built actually since we came here, but we always have some alfalfa, and we'll leave an alfalfa field in for 5 or 6 years, and then we usually always follow our hay with corn and our corn with wheat. And when we take our wheat off midsummer, we're harvesting wheat right now. We're working the straw back into the ground. We will, here in about 3 weeks, plant a probably pea, hairy veg, maybe throw some turnips in there, cover crop that'll be more of a nitrogen fixer for our corn crop coming the next year, and gets a bit of a legume crop coming in as well. So that's kind of the basis of our rotation and why we do it. Okay. We have in Iowa we spring plant alfalfa and clover with oats, but out here I haven't had much luck spring planting my hay. The weeds seem to become an issue, and we certainly fight more weeds out here with the irrigation as well, because you're essentially germing weeds every time your pivot goes around. Where, you know, with your dry land or back east where I'm from, we get a rain, might not get a rain for a couple weeks, and so whatever cultivating, weed removal you did in those 2 weeks, if there's no more moisture, no more weeds germ until your next flush comes. Where here, every third day we're pushing water back on the crop, which is great. We're able to, grow a better, probably more consistent crop out here, but it certainly has more challenges. Tillage is something we've tried a lot of different, more minimum till type practices out here, and it's just hard to have the weed control without a certain amount of tillage. I mean, when you go in to plant your field of corn, you really need to make sure that there are no weeds that are alive at that point. It's we like a lot of residue on top, and so we usually field cultivate with a sweep machine so that it doesn't bury all the residue, but it's got to shear off all the roots. If you have weeds that have already started growing ahead of your crop, those are very hard to ever catch up with. So we also, we have a lot of different mechanical weeding pieces of equipment. Right after we plant, before the crops comes up, we use a tine weeder. It's kind of like a harrow. It's got a little bit longer tines. Ours all have adjustable pressures on them, and so we'll run that through maybe even twice, depending on what the weather's like, how quick the corn comes up, and then once the corn's spiked through a couple inches tall, we usually run a rotary hoe over it a time or two, and then we'll start row crop cultivating after that. So, and then we always budget, $100 to $150 an acre in hand weeding. We'll go out and pull weeds by hand in problem areas, or if we think that it's yield affecting anywhere. So, we haven't had a large insect problem out here. I mean, every year we have, some corn borer damage or cutworm damage, but not significant. And I, again, base that on the rotation and getting legume brought in. Even if we are doing something different in a field, or we need to plant corn 2 years in a row on a field, we always have some cover crop or crop in between the corn, just to kind of break it up and mess with the insect cycles that are going on here. So even when we plant our wheat after corn, our wheat's normally put in late. We do run our vertical tillage disc over the stalks, usually just once, and the stalks are pretty green. So there's a heavy corn stalk cover on there, and then our wheat's usually up a few inches in the fall anyway. And like I said, where our wheat comes off and is going to go into corn, we'll plant a pea, clover, some sort of cover crop mix that's on there always as well. And of course our alfalfa fields have hay on them. So, if you don't have cover out here, wind, can definitely be an issue on our light soils. So, sure. So out here, we have a local organic layer farm that purchases most of our organic corn. So it's, in fact, it's only about 5 miles from our field, and we supply them almost exclusively for their corn, for their feed mill to grind for their organic birds. Our organic alfalfa is marketed to a few different places. We have Prosper Farms purchases a lot of our hay for their organic cattle herd in eastern Colorado, and then there's also some that we sell through a broker to different dairies all the way from Pennsylvania to Texas. So it just depends on the hay quality and who needs it and where they're dry. Our wheat typically goes local as well. Ardent Mills in Denver has an organic division, and so we generally market our wheat to them, and we deliver some usually at harvest time, and we usually end up storing some for maybe a month or two. We try to have all our wheat gone before corn harvest starts. So.
What about your seed? Where do you buy your seed, raise your own seed?
Yep, so we do purchase most of our seed from local dealers. Our wheat seed is raised locally. And our corn, most of our corn seed actually comes out of Illinois. It's a certified organic prairie brand seed. We try a couple different seed companies that are in the organic industry as well. We've just had really good luck with this particular company, and we're also actually a dealer for them in Iowa. So we run quite a few tests on their hybrids, and it's been a good company for us. Our alfalfa seed has generally come from just some local seed suppliers up in Greeley that source organic seed for us. So.
Okay, now here's the hard question. What about labor and hiring labor?
Yeah, so labor is always an issue in any industry, I think. I guess fortunately for me, I have 4 boys, and I have a nephew that's out here, and then 1 full-time hired man. So it works well on our farm. The hand weeding is the one thing that is tricky. So we've used the H2A program before. In Iowa, we use it heavily, and so we get guys out of Guatemala that want to come up and work seasonally, and we've employed them for our hand weeding. But otherwise, we're just a family operation out here, and we do, once again, with the help of the NRCS, have been able to update our pivots and use a lot of remote access for stuff. We just by being able to use the phone to control all my pivots saves a lot of time and labor going out and doing stuff. Our seasonal crop harvesting is always intense, but the rest of the year it's just not too bad. So we run primarily John Deere equipment. We use John Deere's farm manager program to track all of our inputs, cultivating. So we also use their guidance system. But anytime we pull into a field, all our fields are labeled. The tractor recognizes where it's at. We put in at planting time, the piece of equipment we have, the planter we're using, we enter our seed in. It's all GPS recorded. We can print the maps off at any time, and throughout every step in our farming practice, we do the same thing. When we're cultivating, it's recorded as cultivation. It gives us exact dates, times. There's an option in there to put in notes if there's something specific that we're concerned about on the field, or if it happens to be really windy and dry and you just want to remember, like, hey, there was a problem here at harvest, why does this map look this way? You can plug in any additional notes that you want to reference. But that is how we do almost all our time tracking and reporting for our paperwork. There, of course, our typical seed trail is documented as well, from where we bought the seed to where it was stored, and then one day it was planted, and then our program, the My John Deere program, takes over from there, all the way through harvest in the bin, and then once we have our grain storage registers in our bin and our delivery tickets and stuff, we use to track things from there. But otherwise, it's all an integrated system, and there are several different farm programs out there that will do something very similar. We had just started down that road with John Deere and Run Deere equipment, so it's fairly the easiest for us just to use a completely integrated system.
So what do you think the future of organic holds?
Yeah, well, currently demand is still outpacing growth in the organic industry. I think consumers are probably becoming more and more conscious of where their food comes from. Maybe a little more concerned. They like the local, I guess, oversight a little bit. Maybe a little bit more of third-party verification as to what's happening to the crops and the stuff that they're eating. It's allowed my family to certainly thrive in the farming business. Otherwise, farming is a very tough industry on the conventional side, and I think there's a lot of opportunity out there in the organic world, and there's always challenges that come with it. But I think a lot of people that like to farm enjoy a challenge.